cannot bind to adenylate cyclase and stimulate protein kinase. That whole statement is wrong, because even if adenylate cyclase or adenylyl cyclase is activated, it is protein kinase A most often which is activated. So the correct answer is it binds to a cell membrane receptor. Obviously, such a large protein molecule cannot be secreted whole without being broken down in the urine. So that is also false. Okay. So just to a kind of revision for the. So we'll move on to today's topic. The topic for today is the hypothalamus and pituitary. Okay. So we take both in the same breath, right? So we call it as hypothalamo-pituitary complex. So why do we take these two in the same breath? Why both are mentioned in the same breath? The answer is there shown to you. See, the arrow shows you this is a sagittal section of a CT scan of the brain, and the arrow shows the location of the red arrow, the hypothalamus. And just below where the arrow, my arrow, computer arrow is pointing out, that is the location of the pituitary. So you will realize as we go on discussing that both structurally and functionally, the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary are very closely associated to each other, and most often these two structures, they behave like a single unit. Okay, you cannot separate the function of these two. Maybe hypothalamus you can separate out, but you cannot talk about pituitary without talking about the hypothalamus. So that is why we talk about these two structures together, both anatomically and functionally. They are behaving like a single unit. Okay. So this hypothalamus, when we talk about in the central nervous system, we'll have a detailed discussion. This is again a line diagram showing very nicely the green part there, almost fluorescent green, is the area hypothalamus, and you can see below. What is that part of the skull where the pituitary gland is present?
Hypophyseal fossa.
Sella turcica. Okay. And what is this connection between the hypothalamus and the pituitary called as?
Hypothalamo
No.
hypophyseal
Simple question. Simple answer. Simple answer. It's a stalk. Pituitary stalk. Okay. And there is a membrane. There is a membrane covering this part. This part is covered by a membrane. What is that membrane called as? One membranous structure is covering. Diaphragma cellae. Correct? Diaphragma cellae. Paraledandi. Anatomy not bad kada. I can pat myself on my back. Diaphragma cellae. Anything else here? Anatomically important? Structure function relationship. Cavernous sinus kindunda. Okay. Anything else? Anatomy baga chaduvutunnattunnaru. Only ఏదో ఒకటి చదువుతున్నారు కదా. On the diaphragma cellae something passes.
Optic.
Yes, correct. Who is this? Roll number 142 everandi?
Sir, Sri Tulasi sir.
Correct ma. Optic chiasma. Optic chiasma, the part where the two optic nerves are crossing, that is present on the diaphragma cell. Okay. So why that is important, I'll tell you. Why that is important when we discuss about the anterior pituitary tumors and all that. Okay. So don't get scared with this. This is just to show you the hypothalamus is basically made up of a number of nuclei, which are then again having different functions. In fact, hypothalamus plays a very important role in homeostasis, because it is having both neural connections to many parts of the brain, which again are going to the heart and respiratory areas, and it is also having a connection with the pituitary gland. So it performs a number of functions. Say, for example, food intake, body weight determined by hypothalamus, water intake by thirst mechanism determined by hypothalamus, sleep wake cycles and other circadian rhythms, hypothalamus circadian rhythm. Then sexual behavior, emotions, fear, rage, so many functions this hypothalamus does. Okay, so we'll discuss that in the appropriate chapter in now. So again, another thing showing the various nuclei. Okay, now this diagram, I think it is worth taking now. తెలిసింటే వదిలేయండి, anatomy అయ్యింటే వదిలేయండి. Too many details here. I don't like so many details. The key things you have to remember is there is something called as a pituitary stalk, which is connecting the pituitary gland with the hypothalamus. Pituitary gland itself is having a posterior part and an anterior part. The posterior pituitary is coming down from the floor of the third ventricle. Okay, so it is embryologically developing from the floor of the third ventricle. A diagram I'll show it to you. Okay, whereas the anterior pituitary and middle intermediate pituitary, where are they developing from?
So from Rathke's pouch.
There is one pouch called as Rathke's pouch. It's evagination from the roof of the pharynx. Okay, on the roof of the pharynx, this one will go up, and embryologically it will join together. I'll show it maybe in the next session. Those two lines. Okay. So hypothalamus and pituitary are connected to each other by blood vessels. Anterior pituitary, hypothalamus and posterior pituitary are connected to each other by nerve fibers. Various nuclei are there in the hypothalamus. These nuclei will secrete hormones, will synthesize and secrete hormones. We have various nuclei in the hypothalamus. In those nuclei, you have the cell bodies. The cell bodies will secrete the hormones, and the nerve endings of those hormones are coming to one area called as median eminence. In that median eminence, you have a capillary plexus. Yeah. So this capillary plexus, into this capillary plexus, these nerve endings are secreting the hormones. You can see the name of the hormones. TRH, not thyroid releasing hormone. Thyroid gland will not be released. What is TRH? Thyrotrophin releasing hormone. Which hormone is called as thyrotrophin? Which gland is called as thyrotrophin? Hormone, sorry, which hormone is called as thyrotrophin? Oh God.
Thyroid stimulator.
TSH.
చాలా డౌట్ గా చెప్తున్నారండి. ఓకే, సో దీస్ హార్మోన్స్ ACTH, TSH, FSH, LH, even growth hormone except prolactin, these hormones are called as tropic hormones. Can anybody tell me why they are called as tropic hormones, not trophic? TROPHIC కాదు, TROPIC. Why they are called as tropic hormones?
They stimulate release of other hormones.
They act on other endocrine glands to cause the release of hormones. Okay, so because they act on other endocrine glands and cause the release of hormones, the hormones released from the anterior pituitary except prolactin, they are called as tropic hormones. Okay, so adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay, it will act on the adrenal cortex and cause the release of hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone. It stimulates the thyroid gland to release T3, T4. So that is why this is also called as thyrotropin. Growth hormone. Growth hormone acts on the liver and cartilage and other structures and causes the release of some hormones called as somatomedins. So that is why growth hormone is called as somatomamotropin. Somatotropin. Okay, correct is somatotropin. FSH will act on ovaries, cause the stimulation of follicles, which will release estrogen. FSH will act on testis, cause spermatogenesis, and also release of another hormone called as inhibin. LH will act on ovaries, cause the release of progesterone and estrogen. LH will act on testis, which is an endocrine gland, cause the release of testosterone. So both FSH and LH are acting on gonads to cause the release of hormones. So how will you name them? नामकरणम कैसे करेंगे आप? नामकरणम ఎలా చేస్తారు? What is the name for FSH and LH? Gonadotropic hormones.
Gonadotropin.
They are called as gonadotropic hormones. Okay, so they are called as gonadotropic hormones. What is the other name for the pituitary gland?
Hypophyseal.
Hypophyseal gland. Okay. Anterior pituitary is called as adenohypophysis. Posterior pituitary is called as neurohypophysis. Okay, neurohypophysis. Now, these hormones which are released from the hypothalamus, acting on the hypophyseal gland and causing the release of hormones from the anterior pituitary gland, what will you call these hormones? They are called as releasing and inhibiting hormones. They are also called as releasing and inhibiting hormones. But what will be the correct name if you understood our discussion till now? A hormone which acts on another gland to cause the release of a hormone from that gland is called as a tropic hormone. TSH acts on thyroid gland, causes the release of thyroid hormone. So it is called as thyrotropin. These hormones are secreted from the hypothalamus. They act on the anterior pituitary and cause the release of hormones or inhibit the hormones. So what you will call them as? कैसे नामकरण ఎలా చేస్తారు? It ends as tropic. It is starting from hypothalamus, ending on the hypophyseal gland.
Hypothalamo-hypophysiotropic hormones.
నేను మర్చిపోయా. They are called as hypophysiotropic hormones because they are on the hypophyseal gland. They are called as hypophysiotropic hormones. This TRH, CRH, GnRH, GHRH, somatostatin, dopamine, they are called as hypophysiotropic hormones. Maybe somatostatin and dopamine technically maybe you should not include, but we call this as hypophysiotropic hormones. They are acting on the hypophyseal gland and causing the release of hormones. So they are called as hypophysiotropic hormones. So if you observe very carefully, you will see that these neurons from the various nuclei of the hypothalamus, their cell body is there, their nerve endings is coming onto the median eminence. There is one primary capillary plexus here. Into that they are secreting the hormone. Those capillaries will join together and form a blood vessel. which passes along the pituitary stalk. Please note down that anatomical relationship. And then again, it breaks down into capillaries, secondary capillary plexus on the anterior pituitary, and there the hormones are released. These are small diameter neurons. Okay. Whereas here, in the other side, you have cell bodies of neurons in the paraventricular nucleus and supraoptic nucleus. They synthesize the precursor molecules for oxytocin and vasopressin. So pre-pro-oxyphysin and pre-pro-presophysin, they are stored in the granules. They are transported down the axon by axoplasmic flow. Axons are hollow structures. Okay. So by axoplasmic flow, they are transported down the axon. The nerve endings of these neurons are present in the posterior pituitary. On appropriate electrical activity in these neurons, these nerve endings will secrete oxytocin and ADH into the capillary plexus present in the posterior pituitary. These are large diameter neurons. These are small diameter neurons. Okay, so I think it is worthwhile taking down this diagram quickly. They are already running out of time. Huh? Oh. It will be a little fast today. Please tell me when you have finished. So you should note down that word, hypophysiotropic hormones. Please tell me once you have finished. If you have finished, please raise your hands. Should be a little fast in taking down the diagrams. Okay, shall I move on? See, these small diameter neurons are called as parvocellular neurons, whereas the large diameter neurons, which are there connecting the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary, they are called as magnocellular neurons. Okay, so you can see the same thing in this diagram, right? So you have a magnocellular neuron. In the cell body of the magnocellular neuron, the oxytocin and vasopressin in the precursor form are synthesized, stored in the granules, and transported by exoplasmic flow. The nerve endings are present in the posterior pituitary. The nerve endings secrete oxytocin, ADH, and along with that, other breakdown products of the precursor molecule called as neurophycins. Oxytocin and ADH are then released into the systemic circulation, where they bring about their action. Whereas here on the other side, you have the parvocellular neurons. The parvocellular neurons are coming from various nuclei of the hypothalamus. They synthesize which hormones? ఇప్పుడే ఏదో నామకరణం చేశాం కదా.
Hypophysiotropic hormones.
ఎందుకమ్మా సాగతీస్తున్నావు? Hypophysiotropic hormones. So these hypophysiotropic hormones, that is growth hormone releasing hormone, corticotrophin releasing hormone, pyrotrophin releasing hormone, growth hormone inhibiting hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone, somatostatin, they are all synthesized. They are transported by exoplasmic transport. Their nerve endings will go and end on one part of the hypothalamus called as median eminence. From there, these hormones are secreted into the primary capillary plexus, which will join to form a blood vessel, carried to the anterior pituitary. Then the secondary capillary plexus, these hormones are coming out. They will cause the stimulation of ACTH, TSH, LSH, FSH, GH, and prolactin, which are then released into the systemic circulation. Okay, so you can quickly take down this diagram. There is only 1 minute for this batch and 4 minutes for this batch. So I'll schedule one more Gauri, you can tell the first batch people. I have Sai Sharanya and Yogita. You can tell the first batch people I have scheduled a quick short meeting so that they can take down this diagram. Yogita, quickly. We will come back for a bigger session at around 12:15. If you finish this diagram, can I go to the next slide? Shall I go to the next slide? Have you finished this diagram? This batch? Sharanya, Sai Sharanya, వినిపించట్లా. I'll leave you with this diagram. Quickly take down this diagram. Do you want the previous diagram? తీసుకున్నారు కదా?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Quickly take down this diagram. You are having just 1.5 minutes. Quickly. Ma ikkada ee batch lo the first batch they have not come. Yogita, you share the diagram on WhatsApp. Click chesi వాళ్ళతో share చేసుకోమా.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Start the class. Oh, attendance is low today. Okay, shall I start the class? Please raise your hands if I can start the class. Okay, so we started a discussion on the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary. These two structures are taken in the same breath because you cannot separate out them either anatomically or functionally. So these two structures, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, are very closely linked to each other. Okay. So then I showed you this diagram, which is telling you on the left side, the hormones going from the hypothalamus to the median eminence. From the median, they are secreted by nerve endings in the median eminence. From there, they travel via the blood vessels to the anterior pituitary. And these hormones are going to control the actions of the anterior pituitary gland, and they are called as hypophysiotropic hormones. Okay. Then you have also on the other side the neurons present in the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. Their nerve endings are there in the posterior pituitary. They synthesize and transport the oxytocin and vasopressin, and they are stored in the nerve endings. And on appropriate electrical activity in these neurons, they are going to secrete those hormones into the bloodstream present in the capillaries present in the posterior. Okay. So I also told you that the neurons which are secreting the hypophysiotropic hormones, they are the parvocellular neurons. And the neurons which are secreting the oxytocin and vasopressin, that is the posterior pituitary hormones, they are the magnocellular neurons. Okay. So these two terms you should know. Remember, the parvo means small, magno means big. Okay. Then this is a very important diagram. So this question is very frequently asked to you. The connection between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary is a dash connection. You will tell me the answer. Fill in the blanks. Connection between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary is a dash connection.
Vascular
Very
connection.
good. Connection between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary is a vascular connection. Means the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary are connected by blood vessels. So the hormones, which hormones? The hypophysiotropic hormones, which are synthesized in the various nuclei of the hypothalamus in the cell body. The nerve endings are going to one part in the hypothalamus. Which part in the hypothalamus the nerve endings are projecting to? Which part?
Median
eminence.
Median eminence. It's a part of the hypothalamus which is present outside the blood-brain barrier. In this diagram itself, you can note down. Median eminence is a part of the hypothalamus, or a part of the brain which is present outside the blood-brain barrier. Okay, so from here you have a capillary plexus. This is called as the primary capillary plexus being formed. This primary capillary plexus is formed by the arterial twigs coming from the carotid artery and the circle of Willis. You have superior, middle, and inferior hypothalamic arteries which give branches, and they will ultimately break down to form these primary capillary plexus. The primary capillary plexus will again then join to form blood vessels. These blood vessels will pass down along the complete that sentence. Infundibulum or pituitary stalk, then reach the anterior pituitary, and in the anterior pituitary it is breaking down into again capillaries. This is called as the secondary capillary plexus. So they released here the hypophysiotropic hormones, travel down these blood vessels, and then they enter into the anterior pituitary by way of the secondary capillary plexus. Okay. So this system of blood vessels, it starts in capillaries and ends in capillaries without passing through the heart. What will you call such a system which starts in capillaries and ends in capillaries without passing through the heart?
Portal
It is called as a portal system. Yeah. So because it is starting from the hypothalamus, ending in the hypophyseal gland, this is called as hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. That is how the naming is given. Namkaranam ila chesarandi. Starts in the hypothalamus, ends in the hypophyseal gland. It's a portal system. It's a true portal system. So that is why this is called as hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. This can be asked as a short notes for you all. So whether they ask you hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system or hypophysiotropic hormones or releasing and inhibiting hormones, your answer will be the same. You have to draw this diagram and you have to talk about those hormones and what is their action. Okay. Can you give me other examples of portal systems? Other areas in the body? Hepatic portal system. Yes, very good. Anywhere else you have portals? In the renal, in the renal system. In the renal system, you have glomerular capillaries will join to form efferent arterioles. Again, those efferent arterioles will break down to form the peritubular capillaries. So that is also an example of a portal system. Okay, so this you should remember, this diagram. And this is again showing you in a nice way. So the neurons from various areas are secreting into the primary plexus. They're transported down the blood vessels, and then they act on the anterior pituitary to cause the release of the pituitary hormones. which are then going in the bloodstream. So you can see the dots are the hypothalamic releasing hormones and the triangles are the anterior pituitary hormone. You can take down quickly.
So,
Yeah.
so we can take screenshot and draw it later. That way it will save our time.
As you wish. If you are all comfortable with taking screenshots and drawing it later, fine. Yeah, you can take a screenshot and you can draw it later, fine. That is a good suggestion. Okay. Now, this is another very important diagram, which will show you in a simple way in one chart the functions of the various hypophysiotropic hormones. Okay, so the hypothalamus secretes a corticotrophin releasing hormone (CRH), which will act on the anterior pituitary, and it is causing the release of adenocorticotropic hormone and beta lipotropic hormone. We don't know the function of this beta lipotropic hormone. Thyrotropin releasing hormone acts on the anterior pituitary and it causes the release of TSH, also prolactin. You can note down that. TRH is also causing not only the release of thyrotropin hormone or thyrotropic hormone, it is also causing the release of prolactin. And GnRH, what is GnRH?
Gonadotropin releasing
releasing hormone.
Yeah, this is name itself suggests it is going to cause the release of the gonadotropins. Which hormones are called as gonadotropic hormones? FSH and LH are called as gonadotropic hormones. Okay. Then growth hormone releasing hormone. This growth hormone releasing hormone, it causes the release of growth hormone, and you have growth hormone inhibiting hormone. Can you tell me? It is somatostatin. Yeah. So somatostatin inhibits growth hormone secretion. Somatostatin also inhibits ESH secretion. So you can see that these hypophysiotropic hormones are not having action on only one hormone. They do influence more than one hormone activity. Okay, and then you have this prolactin releasing hormone. We don't know what is that prolactin releasing hormone. Whether it is TRH only, which is prolactin releasing hormone, or there is a separate one. Still, that controversy is going on. Okay, then you have prolactin inhibiting hormone. What is that prolactin inhibiting hormone? Dopamine. Dopamine is the prolactin inhibiting hormone, and this prolactin inhibiting hormone will act on the anterior pituitary and inhibit secretion of prolactin. In fact, continuously dopamine is being secreted, and it is going to inhibit the prolactin secretion. Okay, so this is a diagram like somebody suggested. You can take a screenshot and hopefully you all will try. Very difficult to trust you all of you at least. Okay, so Sarah, me ishtam. Now I'll ask you one question. If the pituitary stalk is cut, what will happen to the anterior pituitary? Yeah, so if the pituitary stalk is cut, all the anterior pituitary hormone secretion is going to decrease, except prolactin. Prolactin secretion is going to increase because just now I told you prolactin most often is kept under check by a continuous secretion of dopamine from the hypothalamus going to the anterior pituitary. Okay, and there is one table. This table is very important because in one nutshell, it tells you everything about the hypophysiotropic hormones. Okay, so thyrotropin releasing hormone or TRH, it is mainly synthesized by the paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus, and it controls TSH and prolactin. The target cell is a special cell in the anterior pituitary called as a thyrotroph. The thyrotroph secretes thyrotropin, that is TSH. Gonadotropin releasing hormone, it is secreted from the anterior and medial hypothalamus and preoptic septal areas. So as I already told you, its target is LH and FSH, and the target cell is gonadotroph. The CRH, corticotropin releasing hormone, it is secreted from the medial parvocellular portion of paraventricular, mainly paraventricular nucleus. And like we already told you, its target is it controls the ACTH and also beta lipotropic hormone, and the target cell is corticotroph. The growth hormone releasing hormone, mainly the arcuate nucleus, the portion close to the median eminence, it's controlling the growth hormone release, and the target cell is the cell called as somatotroph. Okay, and the somatostatin or growth hormone inhibiting hormone, this is from the anterior paraventricular area. Its target is the growth hormone, and I also told you to some extent it also inhibits TSH secretion, but mainly it is growth hormone. The target cell is somatotroph. And dopamine is secreted from the arcuate nucleus, and its target is prolactin. It inhibits prolactin secretion, and the target cell is lactotroph. There are 6 recognized hypophysiotropic hormones, and the cells of origin and the target cell and the hormone which they are taking. So if you are oh my god, I didn't change it here. So if you are taking a screenshot of this, then fine. Once you finish taking the screenshot, you can tell me. I hope in the university exam you won't write screenshot. Huh? Draw the diagram in the internal assessment and university exam. So shall I move on?
Yes.
Sir.
Okay. So the connection between the anterior pituitary and the hypothalamus and anterior pituitary is a vascular connection. Okay. So in the same way, the connection between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary is a dash connection. Huh?
Neural.
There it is. Neural. Yeah, neural will be the correct terminology. So the connection between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary is a neural connection. They are connected by nerve fibers. These nerve fibers also cross the median eminence. Okay, so you have, which axons are this? What did we name these axons as? Coming from the what did we name these axons? ఎందుకు సగం మింగేస్తున్నావు? చెప్పుమా, పూర్తిగా చెప్పు. మ్యాగ్నో అంటే నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ చెప్తావా? కరెక్ట్ చెప్పే, పూర్తి చెప్పే. రోల్ నెంబర్ 142 ఎవరండి? ఆన్సర్ ఇస్ కరెక్ట్.
Magnocellular.
Yeah, this is the magnocellular neurons. Okay, so these magnocellular neurons, cell body is present in the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. The axons are passing from there to the posterior pituitary. The nerve endings are ending in the posterior pituitary, and whenever there is electrical activity, the nerve endings will secrete the oxytocin and vasopressin. Both are synthesizing. Previously, they used to tell one nucleus is one hormone, another nucleus is another hormone. But now we know that both nuclei are synthesizing and transporting both the hormones. Okay, so in the cell body, like any protein hormone, it is first synthesized in the pre-form, pre-pro vasopressin or pre-pro oxytocin. Then a leader sequence is removed, and then you will have pro-oxytocin or pro-vasopressin in the secretory granules. These secretory granules are transported along the axons by axoplasmic flow, and they are stored in the nerve endings here. Okay, so when they are stored in the nerve endings here, whenever there is appropriate electrical activity in these neurons, these nerve endings will be the granules which are stored there will be released. And the granules which are stored here, they are called as Herring's bodies. The granules synthesized in the cell body, transported along the axons, and stored in the nerve endings, containing the hormone and the other fragments after processing. Pro hormone has to be converted into hormone, plus that pro fragment will be there. Okay, so that fragment we call it as neurophycins here. Neurophycin 1 for oxytocin, and neurophycin 1 is secreted. And for vasopressin, the vasopressin and neurophycin 2, another compound, is secreted. Okay, so those products are stored in granules, and those granules, secretory granules, are called as Herring's bodies. Hering apostrophe S. They are called as Herring's bodies, and they are the ones which are. So you can take the screenshot. Quickly finish that, and I'll move on. If you're taking it, I'll move on. Shall I move on? So the same thing is shown here. Cell bodies is here in the nuclei. Axons, the magnocellular neurons, they are ending here in the posterior pituitary, and they are containing the secretory granule, and they secrete it into the blood. So this is a neurocrine secretion. This is a neurocrine secretion. So I'll now start my discussion on the posterior pituitary hormone. Okay. So the posterior pituitary can be asked as a main question, right? They can ask the question like this: name the hormones secreted from the posterior pituitary. Explain their actions or physiological actions or effects, and add a note on some abnormality, like say diabetes insipidus or SIADH, that is syndrome of inappropriate ADH secretion. Now, before I actually start my discussion about the posterior pituitary hormones, I'll just give you a brief framework. Any hormone, you can use this framework. If you're able to fill up the points for the framework which I'm giving you, it becomes very easy for you to remember and also read and understand the endocrine system. So the first thing you have to tell for any hormone is the source. So where is it coming? Which endocrine gland is secreting that hormone? Please note down these things. Okay, so you have to tell the source. The second thing you have to tell about any hormone is its chemistry. Whether it is a steroid hormone or a protein hormone or an amino acid derivative. And I already told you yesterday that this is very important, because this will help you to understand where its receptor is present, and based on that you can predict how the signal transduction is going to happen and what are the second messengers it is going to use. Okay, so you will tell the chemistry and then you will tell the biosynthesis. How is it synthesized? This is very important, especially for the thyroid hormones and the catecholamines and the steroid hormones, because at many points in the biosynthetic pathway, the enzyme deficiency can cause problem. This is also true for the proteins, but proteins in generally, they follow that step. You have transcription, post-transcriptional modification, translation, and post-translational modification. That's what I've been telling you. You have pre-pro hormone, pro hormone, then pro hormone and hormone pro and hormone part are separated and they are secreted. So you have to tell about the biosynthesis. Then you have to tell the receptors for that hormone, any special thing about the receptors. So obviously, without knowing about the receptors, your understanding of the concepts is going to be is not going to be complete. Okay, so you will tell about receptors, and then you will tell about the physiological actions or effects of that hormone. Means what it is doing in the body. So whenever you talk about physiological aspects or actions of that hormone, you have to tell metabolic actions first, then other things. Okay, so what does it affect on carbohydrate, protein, and fat metabolism and mineral metabolism, if any? You don't try to be very smart and say it has got actions on carbohydrate, protein, and fat metabolism for all the hormones. What it is doing, whether it is causing breakdown or synthesis, positive nitrogen balance or negative nitrogen balance, lipolysis or lipogenesis, gluconeogenesis or glycogenolysis, or breakdown of the glucose. Those terms you have to use. As we discuss, you'll understand. Okay. Very important. Regulation of secretion of that hormone. How that hormone secretion is regulated. So whether it is a neural control or hormone control or hormone substrate control or combination of all three. This is what we see for insulin. So whether the sympathetic nervous system or parasympathetic is controlling by releasing the various things, or whether it's hormone causes secretion of another hormone that comes back and inhibits the negative feedback, which we are always telling you. Or whether it is a hormone acts on substrate will come back and inhibit, like say parathyroid hormone, calcium increases, and calcium when it increases, it comes back and inhibits further parathyroid hormone secretion, like that. Okay. So the regulation of secretion is very important, because if you understand the regulation, you can also predict what will happen when there is an abnormality in the secretion of the hormone. Okay. And then what is the point of reading all this? Hormone is there, it is protein, it is acting there, all that, unless you remember the applied aspects. So you must know the applied aspects. Okay. So only two things can happen in endocrinology. Two types of abnormalities can happen in endocrinology. What are they?
Increase or
Either there is a hypersecretion of the hormone or a hyposecretion of the hormone. This is the only thing that can happen with any hormone. And the cause for the hypo and hyposecretion may be an absolute or relative. That you will understand when we discuss. Okay. And lastly, any special tests are there for measuring that hormone. Say, for example, you want to assess the function of the thyroid gland, the most common probably after diabetes. How to assess the functioning of the pancreas, the insulin secretion. How to assess the functioning of the thyroid gland? You have test called as thyroid function test. Okay. And for any hormone, usually we do the blood measurements, concentration of that hormone. But like I've been telling you from yesterday, just doing a single measurement of the hormone and coming to a conclusion is not correct. Okay, because there are so many things which are going to influence you. Remember the MCQ I had put in the first session. So you can, the timing, the diurnal variation, the nutritional status, the stress, the physical activity. So many factors are there which can influence the hormone rate, the excretion rate, whether kidneys are functioning normal, whether liver is normal or not. All these are going to affect the hormonal concentration. So you should never come to a conclusion about hypo or hypersecretion just by measuring one single value of the hormone. Hormone pairs, the TSH, T3, T4, insulin and the blood glucose, calcium and parathyroid hormone, like that. Okay, so you should always do that. And doing the stimulation tests or suppression tests, depending on the patient's presentation, that may be more appropriate in most of the cases. Okay, so that is just a gist of the way you should remember. Any hormone, if you are filling in these columns, you are understanding under these headings, your job is complete. So what are the things you have to remember? Can you just tell me? We'll run through.
source,
First you have to tell the source of the hormone. Then you have to tell the chemistry of the hormone. Then you have to tell the biosynthesis. Then whether it is having a binding protein, that I forgot. Steroid and thyroid hormones will have a binding protein. Then the receptors for the hormone, how the signal transduction is going on. Then physiological effects of the hormone, regulation of secretion of that hormone. And last two things are the abnormalities, the increase and decrease of that hormone, and measurements, any special tests to assess that hormone. Okay. So, దీన్ని కూడా స్క్రీన్ షాట్ తీసుకోండి. You can take a screenshot. Very nice diagram. So it tells how the nervous system can control the activity. So you are having a neuron secreting acetylcholine on muscle, skeletal muscle. This is a neuromuscular junction. Then you have a neuron, acetylcholine. This is a ganglion. This is a preganglionic neuron. This is the postganglionic. So this secretes norepinephrine or acetylcholine. This is on the smooth muscle and cardiac muscle. Which system is this? This is somatic system. This is second one is
Autonomic system.
yeah. This is the autonomic nervous system. Then you have acetylcholine being released, acting on postganglionic, that secretes norepinephrine. This is sympathetic nervous system. Kidney, there is renin secretion on the juxtaglomerular cells. Very important system, the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, which is again under the sympathetic control. Then you have direct action of the preganglionic sympathetic nerve endings releasing acetylcholine on adrenal medulla, causing epinephrine and norepinephrine secretion. And what we discussed today. So hormones, from which neurons are these? Going to the median eminence, and then from there you have the releasing hormones, which will cause the control parvocellular thing. And what is this blood vessel here called as? The small blood vessel there, it is shown. The పంచపాండవులు ఎంతమంది అడిగినట్టున్నారు?
Portal vein.
Portal vessel.
Hypophyseal portal system.
This is called as the hypophyseal portal system. It is the what connection?
Vascular.
It is the vascular connection between the hypothalamus and the anterior pituitary. Okay. And the last one, you have this cell body here, big neuron coming and ending on the posterior pituitary, secreting vasopressin or oxytocin. So what is this one? This is called as hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Forgot to tell you that. Hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Our students will tell hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal tract. I don't know why they are getting that word portal there. No need to bring that word portal. Okay. So this is hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. The neural connection between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary. Okay. Can we have one more session today at 3:30? CRs will tell me. I'm having 3 minutes in this session. CRs will tell me. I'll come back to this. So we'll start our discussion on ADH or vasopressin. Okay. So this is a hormone which is synthesized in the posterior pituitary. True or false?
False.
This is false, is it not? This is a hormone which is synthesized in the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei of the hypothalamus, transported by exoplasmic flow to the nerve endings in the posterior pituitary and stored there in secretory granules. What are those secretory granules called as?
Herring's bodies.
Herring's bodies. Okay. These Herring's bodies. What is the another compound which is secreted along with vasopressin? Neurophysin 2. No, neurophysin 2. Oxytocin is separate. Both are not. Neurophysin 2. Okay. So vasopressin and neurophysin 2 are going to be secreted. And you can write here in the process of production, like any hormone, you have pre-pro hormone in the cell body. From there, when it goes to the Golgi apparatus, the pre part is removed. Pro hormone is going into the Golgi body. In the Golgi body, it is packaged into the vesicles, and the secretory granules are vesicles. And the pro part is also removed. Another part is removed, and finally you get the hormone and neurophysin 2. Okay. So, what is the chemical nature of vasopressin and oxytocin? Both vasopressin and oxytocin are dash peptides.
Wow.
A diagram used.
Polypeptides.
Ma baga chudandi diagram.
Oligopeptides.
I have less than 1 minute now.
Oligopeptides.
Any amino acids unnai? Both are having how many amino acids?
9.
Both are having 9 amino acids. So what you will call them as? Nona peptides. Both are called as nona peptides. Nano, nona, both are same anta. Okay. So I also have the same dot. Okay. So both vasopressin and oxytocin are called as nona peptides. And if you see vasopressin, it is not just vasopressin. There is a prefix there called as arginine vasopressin. We started our discussion on the hypothalamus, and we saw that the hypothalamus is linked to the anterior pituitary by vascular connection, and this connection is called as the hypothalamo-hypophyseal portal system. So this is a portal system because it starts in capillaries and ends in capillaries without going through the heart. And the hormones which are released by the hormones which are released just a minute. The hormones which are released by the hypothalamus, they are called as hypophysiotropic hormones. They are also the releasing and inhibiting hormones. And we also saw how they are acting and controlling the functions of the Are you able to see the screen share in this group?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. So we looked at the hypothalamus connections between anterior pituitary, vascular, how the hormones are going, and what are those hormones. And we saw that the releasing hormones are these hypophysiotropic hormones. We say they act on one, but actually they are acting on more than one. They influence the release of more than one hormone. The cells the hormone, the nuclei from which they are coming also I have shown you. And और क्या है? Yeah. So this is the one, right? So we have seen all that. And we also saw that the connection between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary is a neural one, which is called as the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. It passes through the median eminence. And then you have the various types of neuronal connections, control mechanisms, how it is controlling the skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, smooth muscle, hormonal control, how it is controlling the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary connection. Can you give me the name for the last one? Can you tell me a specific terminology for the last one, where the hormones are coming from the hypothalamus, nerve endings, posterior pituitary, it is releasing a hormone going into the bloodstream and acting on target organs? What is the term used for the last one?
Neurocrine hormone.
Huh? What is it called as? Somebody told the answer. Huh?
Neurocrine.
It is called as neurocrine connection. Okay. So then we started our discussion on the posterior pituitary hormones. Right? So I told you that the posterior pituitary hormones are two. They are the oxytocin and ADH. ADH is also called as vasopressin. Any idea why it is called as vasopressin? Who will tell me?
So vasoconstrictor effect.
It is having vasopressor action. Pressor means constriction. Okay. So because vasopressin causes generalized vascular pressor effect, it is called as vasopressin. And because it prevents the diuresis by reabsorbing water in the kidney, it is called as antidiuretic hormone. Okay. So I told you a general scheme for any hormone, right? So the source of the posterior pituitary hormone, ADH. Here you have to be a little careful. It is synthesized in the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei. It is transported along the axons, the magnocellular axons, and it is stored in the nerve endings. And in the nerve endings, it's the secretory vesicles are called as Herring's bodies. And upon appropriate electrical stimulation, they are secreted in the posterior pituitary. They are not synthesized. They are secreted by the posterior pituitary. Okay. So the structure, it is a peptide having 9 amino acids. It's called as a nonapeptide, NONA. And at the 8th position, there is arginine. So because there is arginine at the 8th position, the vasopressin which is there in human beings is called as arginine vasopressin. In other animals, like say in hippopotami and in some pigs, there is lysine in the 8th position. That is called as lysine vasopressin. Okay. So for the sake of comparison, the oxytocin structure is also given below. Synthesis. Like any hormone, you have pre-pro vasopressin synthesized first in the ribosomes. This pre-pro vasopressin from the ribosomes, it goes to the Golgi apparatus. As it enters into the Golgi apparatus, 19 amino acids are removed. So pro vasopressin goes into the Golgi apparatus. In the Golgi apparatus, the secretory vesicles are formed, and in there the split takes place. The split fragment which comes out is called as neurophysin 2. So you have neurophysin 2 and you have vasopressin in the secretory granules. They are transported by exoplasmic flow to the nerve endings. And what are the secretory granules called in the nerve endings? They are called as what bodies? They are called as Herring's bodies. These Herring's bodies are visible on staining. If you stain the nerve endings in the posterior pituitary, or you take a section of the posterior pituitary and you stain it, Herring bodies are visible. Okay. Then are ADH and oxytocin present only in the posterior pituitary? No. We have oxytocin projecting from the hypothalamus, these two nuclei. Neurons also project to the brainstem and spinal cord. So there, in the brainstem and spinal cord also, you have oxytocin and ADH being released. They are involved in cardiovascular control. You also have oxytocin in the gonads. You also have oxytocin and ADH being present in the testis to some extent, locally produces there. What is the function of the oxytocin in gonads and in the testis and in the thymus also? We don't know. Placenta also you find locally produced oxytocin. Now here you have to understand one point. The same substance, depending on where it is being secreted, it can function as an endocrine hormone, it can function as a neurotransmitter, it can function as a neurocrine secretion there, it can have autocrine action, it can have paracrine action, and so on. Can you give me an example? A hormone which is functioning, a substance which is functioning as both a neurotransmitter and a hormone.
Norepinephrine.
Yeah, very good. Norepinephrine. Give me where it is secreted, Sharanya, where it is functioning as a neurotransmitter.
Parasympathetic
Hey, first step in the correct one.
nervous system.
Sympathetic nerve endings, norepinephrine is released. It functions as a neurotransmitter. Norepinephrine, where is it acting as a hormone?
It is secreted by the
It is
adrenal
secreted
medulla.
by the adrenal medulla going into the circulation, and there it is now functioning as a hormone. Can you give an example of a substance which is functioning as a hormone and also as an endocrine hormone and as an autocrine substance?
Insulin.
Insulin. Insulin not only is secreted by the beta cells into the circulation, but insulin also acts back on beta cells to regulate insulin's own secretion. So you have many such examples are there. And in the GIT, you have most of the hormones. You have VIP. It is functioning as a neurotransmitter in one place. It is functioning as a paracrine substance in the gastrointestinal tract. So this concept you should remember. That don't go with the impression that hormone means it is there only ductless gland into the bloodstream. No, the same substance can be functioning as a neurotransmitter in the brain. The same substance can be functioning as a paracrine substance elsewhere. The same substance can be acting autocrine. Okay, so this point you should know. So, what about the receptors for vasopressin? Now, vasopressin receptors are of three types: V1A, V1B, and V12. V2 receptors. Sorry, V1A, V1B. I think this should be capital, and V2 receptors. Okay, so vasopressin receptors are of three types: V1A, V1B, and V2 receptors. Right? Now, where are the V1A receptors present? V1A receptors are present in the blood vessels. Vascular smooth muscle, V1A receptors are present. Where are the V1B receptors present? V1B receptors are exclusively present in the anterior pituitary, where ADH acts to decrease or stimulate ACTH, control ACTH secretion. One special act. Where are the V2 receptors present? Anybody? Inkem migilindandi? Common sense.
Kidney tubules.
The V2 receptors are present in the kidneys. Okay, so V1A receptors are present in the vascular smooth muscle on the blood vessels. V1B receptors are present in the anterior pituitary exclusively, where ADH acts to control ACTH secretion, and V2 is the one which is present in the. Right? This is important. You should remember this. Right? Now, what is the next thing you should know once you came to know about the type of receptors and all that?
Mechanism of action.
Mechanism of action. So, danike petindi. So, V2 receptor, this is how it acts. It is present on the kidneys, and once the hormone ADH binds to the V2 receptors, the G protein, heterotrimeric G protein, there is a split. The alpha, beta, gamma parts are there. So the alpha part will exchange GDP for GDP. So when alpha part exchange GDP for GDP, the splits happens. Okay. Alpha beta part remains. Alpha part remains. Gamma beta part remains. The alpha part with GTP will activate adenylyl cyclase. So what will happen when adenylyl cyclase is activated?
Phosphorylation.
Protein kinase A.
You're jumping steps. You're jumping steps. There is increased cyclic AMP production. So this increased cyclic AMP production, that will cause activation of protein kinase A. Protein kinase A is going to cause the insertion of the aquaporin channels, right? Whereas the V1A and V1B receptors, they are causing activation of phospholipase C. So when phospholipase C is activated, there is increased intracellular production of inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol. And inositol triphosphate, we all know, it causes release of calcium. The calcium will go and bind to the proteins, mainly calmodulin. And the calcium calmodulin complex will cause so many things. So there is a difference here, right? So the same substance is able to have different actions because it is acting on different receptors. On those receptors are activating different intracellular substances. So the signal transduction and the cascade which is happening when ADH binds to V2 receptor is increased cyclic AMP by the mechanism I told you. Whereas when same ADH binds to the V1A or V1B receptors, there is going to be increase in intracellular calcium. And here now, their cyclic AMP is the second messenger. Here calcium is the second messenger. And calcium, when it binds to calmodulin, it is going to bring about the various actions. Right? So this, I hope you have noted somewhere. And if the question is asked for 15 marks, you should be writing this diagram, right? So this is a nice slide which shows you that antidiuretic hormone, the receptors are G protein coupled. Or it can be even the phospholipase C, the V1A and V1B. And then the second messengers are calcium and cyclic AMP. And in the kidneys, it's the V2 and V1 is in the vascular smooth muscle. And the main effect is increased water permeability in the kidneys and the vasoconstriction in the vascular smooth muscle. So this is a summary, a screenshot you take, and maybe you can take down this. What I wanted you to really go through was this slide. Very carefully, you have to understand this slide. Very nice slide, which shows the mechanism of action of ADH on the kidneys. Okay, so ADH binds on V2 receptor. Once ADH binds to the V2 receptor, what is happening? The alpha, beta, gamma, that heterotrimeric G protein which is there, it is splitting. Usually, this alpha part is combined with GDP and everything is associated. When the alpha part exchanges GDP for GTP, takes up GTP, leaves off GDP. Guanosine triphosphate తీసుకుంటుంది. Guanosine diphosphate, it leaves off. So this alpha with the GTP, it will go and activate one enzyme. Which enzyme? Adenylyl cyclase. So when adenylyl cyclase is activated, there is increased production of intracellular cyclic AMP. So when there is increased production of intracellular cyclic AMP concentration increases, that will go and activate another enzyme called as
Protein kinase A.
protein kinase A.
Protein
So this
kinase.
protein kinase A is going to go and cause the phosphorylation of aquaporin 2 channel. See, what is happening is inside the renal tubular cells, the cortical collecting ducts, there is an intracellular pool. There is an intracellular pool of vesicles. In those vesicles, aquaporin 2 channels are there. Cytosolic pool of aquaporin 2 channels it shows. Okay. So once this protein kinase A is activated, phosphorylated by cyclic AMP, this protein kinase A, it goes and stimulates these aquaporin 2 channels present in the cytosolic pool. They get phosphorylated. So what happens when they get phosphorylated? These aquaporin channels are inserted into the membrane of the renal tubular cells. Little bit common sense. Tell me which membrane?
Luminal
Luminal membrane.
Membrane.
It has to be in the luminal membrane of the cortical ducts. Okay. So once aquaporin channels are, and which type of aquaporin channel is it? Aquaporin 2. That you have to remember for the rest of your life. Aquaporin channels are of 5 types. 1, 2, 3 is present in the kidney. Here 4 is also, he says, is present in the kidney. And 5 is present in the lacrimal gland, salivary glands, and in the lungs. What is the function of aquaporin channels? Aqua means water. Porins means channels. They are channels which allow water to move across the cell membrane. Okay, cell membrane is lipid. Water has to cross it. There should be some special mechanism for water to move across the cell membrane. Okay, so aquaporin channels aquaporin channels are there, and now what is happening is the permeability of the renal tubules can change. If there are no aquaporin 2 channels inserted into the luminal membrane, it is impermeable to water. If aquaporin channels are inserted, then it becomes permeable to water. So you can also see that on the basolateral membrane, always aquaporin channels are there. Which aquaporin channels are there in the basolateral membrane? See the diagram and tell me.
Aquaporin 3 and 4.
Aquaporin 3 and 4. So once water is entering from the luminal membrane into the cell, it just moves out on the other side from the basolateral membrane and enters into the interstitial space. Just ADH is enough for water reabsorption. True or false?
false.
What else is needed? What else is needed?
Aquaporin channels.
ADH undi, aquaporin channels undi, aquaporin gets inserted and water will move. True or false?
Concentration gradient.
There must be an osmotic gradient, Karma. There must be an osmotic gradient for water to move. So in the medullary interstitium, what is creating that osmotic gradient?
Countercurrent.
The countercurrent multiplier is establishing a gradient, and the countercurrent exchanger is maintaining that gradient. So this is how the ADH acts and causes the water reabsorption, and it also causes vasoconstriction. But the problem is the vasoconstriction which is produced by ADH is not going to cause an increase in blood pressure, because ADH acts directly on certain areas of the brain and inhibits the certain cardiovascular areas and decreases the cardiac output. So net effect is that there is not much of effect of ADH on the blood pressure in a normal person. But when blood pressure falls, there is definitely some role of ADH there to increase the blood pressure. Little confusing concept, but thing is, in a normal person, ADH not much thing, not much effect on blood pressure. But when the blood pressure falls due to hemorrhage or something, then ADH is definitely having a role to cause increase in blood pressure and maintain the blood pressure and prevent it from falling further. Okay, so I think it's worthwhile you draw this diagram or screenshot. Hello, screenshot. So very simple thing, whether you have understood the other mechanisms or not. Very simple thing is ADH binds to V2 receptors. Inside the cytoplasm, there are aquaporin channels. When ADH binds to that, ultimately these aquaporin channels are inserted into the cell membrane. Which cell membrane? Basolateral or luminal?
Luminal.
Luminal. Already on the basolateral, you have aquaporin 3 and 4. So once this permeability increases luminal, water enters into the cell and it will move on to the other side because of the presence of an osmotic gradient, and therefore ADH helps to maintain ECF osmolality. The main function of ADH is to maintain ECF osmolality. ADH, other function is it also causes vasoconstriction. V1A receptors. Via V1B receptors, ADH regulates ACTH secretion. Done? Okay. Understood till now? Anything you want me to repeat? Very frequently asked question, ADH. So we saw the source, we saw the chemistry, we saw the receptors, we saw the mechanism of action, we saw the physiological effects of ADH. What is remaining? One important point about ADH is that synthetic analogs of ADH are available. In synthetic compounds which are similar to ADH are present, and that is one compound called as DDAVP, desmopressin, called as desmopressin, 1-D-amino 8-D-arginine vasopressin or DDAVP. It is believed to be much more powerful in its action than vasopressin. Man always messes around with nature and somehow comes out with more powerful compounds by altering the amino acid sequence, that 9 amino acid sequence. Okay. But there is one synthetic agonist called as DDAVP. The antagonist is one antibiotic called as demiclocycline. Antagonist to the V2 receptor is an antibiotic called as demiclocycline. Okay, so please remember these two compounds. You will understand why I'm telling you to remember these two compounds, right? Then coming to the metabolism of ADH. ADH is very rapidly metabolized. Its half-life is 18 minutes. Means now if it is concentration is 1 milligram, after 18 minutes its concentration is going to be 0.5 milligrams. It's mainly metabolized in the kidneys and it is going to be excreted out in the kidneys itself. Okay, so what is remaining now about ADH? Regulation of ADH secretion. Okay, so very important this table. So you have some factors which are going to increase ADH secretion and some factors which are going to decrease ADH secretion. The factors which increase ADH secretion, probably the most important are, it is in order of importance. Okay, so in a day-to-day mechanism, the most important one is increased effective osmotic pressure of plasma. It means increase in the osmolality or tonicity of plasma. Decrease in the ECF volume. ECF volume decreases. Pain, emotion, stress, exercise, all are going to cause increase in ADH secretion. Nausea and vomiting. A person is having a sensation of nausea and vomiting, a very powerful stimulus for ADH secretion. Standing up, in the sitting position, you stand up, ADH secretion increases. Certain drugs, clofebrate, these are lipid lowering drugs. Carbamazepine, they are used in, it's used as an anti-epileptic, and for other various neurological conditions it is used. That can also increase ADH secretion. And angiotensin 2, renin-angiotensin aldosterone system, that compound, that is going to cause increase in ADH secretion. The factors which decrease ADH secretion, the first two are opposite to the factors which increase. So opposite and decreased effective osmotic pressure of plasma or increase in extracellular fluid volume will decrease ADH secretion. And also alcohol. Alcohol is going to decrease ADH secretion by an action on the brain. One of the many things that happens to a person after he consumes alcohol is increased urinary output. So many things will happen after consumption of alcohol to that person. And one thing is the urinary output is going to increase. So you can just quickly take down these points, or if you're done with your screenshot, I'll explain these things. Please raise your hands if I can move on. I hope everybody is comfortable and aware of taking those screenshots. Right? Okay. So this is an experiment which was done in the rats, and you need not take down this diagram, just to show that the top one shows the factors which influence oxytocin secretion. Okay, so stimulation of the nipple will cause this is stimulation started, and you can see the rate of firing is changing as soon as the nipple stimulation started. And then you can see that there is a sudden increase in oxytocin secretion, which will act on back on the mammary gland. The myoepithelial cells will contract, and there is going to be the ejection of milk into the mouth of the baby who is suckling on the nipple. Okay, and the same thing below is shown. What happens when 5 ml of blood is removed in the rat? Means you are creating hypovolemia. So when hypovolemia is created, we see that the firing rate of the neurons, magnocellular neurons secreting ADH is going to increase, firing rate increases, and suddenly it reaches a peak, and then you have phasic bursts. Okay, you don't see those phasic bursts of secretion, electrical activity for the oxytocin secretion. Nipple stimulation, one burst, oxytocin secreted, khatam. But here, for the ADH, when the hypovolemia is there, the ADH secretion firing in those neurons will slowly increase, reach a plateau, and then now and then there is bursts of secretion. That difference you should know. Okay. This slide is important. This slide is important. So this shows the relationship between plasma osmolality and the vasopressin secretion, right? So LD means lowest limit of detection. It is around 284 or 85 milliosmoles. Below that, we are not able to measure the ADH secretion below this, right? The plasma osmolality is around 285 milliosmoles. So tightly it is controlled between 282 and 284 milliosmoles. So once it starts 285 milliosmoles is the cutoff point. Once it increases beyond 285 milliosmoles, you can see that the ADH secretion starts. Okay, and as the plasma osmolality goes on increasing, ADH secretion also goes on increasing. This is an experiment done in healthy humans. They withheld water. By withholding water, they have created hyperosmolality in the plasma, and that causes the osmolality to increase. And in the brain, there is an organ called as OVLT. Anybody can tell me what is that OVLT? What are
Contralateral ventricle.
OVLT. What are circumventricular organs? Okay, please go back and read what are circumventricular organs, right? So when there is hyperosmolality, what will happen to the cells in the body? They will swell or they'll shrink. If you place a cell in a hyperosmolar solution, it will shrink, is it not? So in the brain, in that part called as OVLT, osmoreceptors are there. These osmoreceptors will detect that and they will shrink. When they shrink, they will send impulses to the supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei, increase their firing rate, and that will cause ADH secretion to increase. Okay, so this cycle you need to write somewhere. I don't know. I had it. So then this slide it is there. I'll come to that slide. Okay. So I repeat: increase in osmolality, shrinkage of osmoreceptors, stimulus to supraoptic and paraventricular nuclei, increased firing rate of those maglocellular neurons, and that will cause the release of ADH. So you can see as the osmolality goes on increasing, the ADH secretion goes on increasing, right? The other one which will cause ADH secretion is increase in blood pressure. Blood pressure and ADH secretion are inversely related. That is why you have to read the graph in reverse. Okay, so this is percentage